Now the pitch. It's a high drive, deep right center, way back. Might be out of here. It's off the wall. One run is in. Two runs are in. A third man scores. Way back. Might be out of here. Hey, hey, hey. He did it again. He did it again. Oh. The game is tied. Holy cow.
Hello there, listeners, and welcome to another exciting episode of Rounding Third, brought to you by Podbean.com. If you like what you hear, catch us online at roundingthird.podbean.com. My name is Zach Delight, and alongside me tonight is my counterpart, as always, Chris Wilson.
You can also email us here at roundingthirdbase@gmail.com. We're also now on Facebook. Join our group or like our pages. It's all on Rounding Third.
So what do we got planned tonight for the listeners there, Chris?
Well, Zach, we're going to talk about the World Baseball Classic going on right now and over the next couple of days. We have some updates on spring training, including some pay cuts, and also some upcoming prospect to the MLB. But first, we do want to update you guys on the World Baseball Classic, and Zach, start us off with what's going on there.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting World Baseball Classic. It's always a good time. Got major league players, playing against each other, representing their respective countries there. An opening game today, Chien-Ming Wang, former New York Yankee, actually threw 6 shutout innings to lead Taiwan past Australia 4-1. In the first game there of the World Baseball Classic. Wong scattered 4 hits through the 6 innings, and he was also helped by a solid infield that turned 3 double plays during the game. We've also got Japan. They won today. 2-time defending champions rallied to beat Brazil 5-3 in their opening game of the World Baseball Classic. They actually trailed 3-2 before adding 3 runs in the top of the 8th inning in front of a crowd of approximately 28,000 people. So, Japan, they've been there the last couple of years. They definitely know how to get things done on a stage as big as this.
Yeah, and Brazil was coming into this game looking to obviously upset Japan, and what you saw didn't happen there. So, better luck next time.
Yeah, and Brazil is they're actually managed by Hall of Famer Barry Larkin. So they were ready, they were prepared. They had that 3-2 lead, in the top of the 5th. They just couldn't hang on there. They may be a team to look out for here. If not this year, then definitely within the next couple of years.
Yeah, and actually they go back at it tonight. They're playing against Cuba.
All right, and don't forget South Korea. They played today too. They were actually blanked by the Netherlands. Netherlands beat them 5-0. Andrew Jones, who haven't heard from him in a little while, but he actually had 2 hits in the game for the Netherlands today. And aside from Jones, we had Roger Bernardino of the Washington Nationals. He actually drove in a pair of runs in the 5-0 win as well. So some pretty well-known guys there performing for the Dutch.
And so if you want to, you can catch all of these games live on the MLB Network, and I believe ESPN Deportes is also showing them. And probably once the games get further on, throughout the series, you can find them on ESPN National. I'm sure one of the ESPNs will show them one of these days coming up.
And in other news, home plate collisions. Should they be allowed in the game of baseball or not? Cardinals manager Mike Matheny recently brought up the topic of whether or not home plate collisions should be, banned from the game of baseball. He's actually going to be speaking with Joe Torre pretty soon, who's actually one of the higher-ups with the MLB now. He's going to bring this issue up to him and see if they can, come to an agreement as far as whether if it can't be banned, maybe regulated a little bit better. I know Mike Matheny was a former catcher himself. I remember he got leveled one time, and he was not the same for about 2 or 3 weeks after that. And then it all goes back to, you can look back to Buster Posey a few years ago. He got pretty much rocked at the plate there, and hurt his knee. I believe he, tore some muscles in his leg, and he was out for the entire season. And the Giants just, they were not prepared to lose such a dynamic player as Buster Posey. So, I mean, it would be good to, get rid of that rule to where you are allowed to charge the catcher at home, not only for the safety of the catcher himself, but also, you figure the guy 9 times out of 10 who's running it hard from third is, probably smaller than the catcher at times too. So it's for his safety as well.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point with the safety and injury of players. That these are basically injuries that wouldn't even need to happen if this wasn't even in effect.
Yeah, they're easily preventable. I mean, if you eliminate the charge of home plate, they're right there. You've eliminated the possibility of 2 major injuries from occurring. Mm-hmm. Will it happen? I don't know. Time will tell. For that, but do I agree with it? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, anything to, keep players, safer.
Yeah, and I'm sure the managers would agree with this too, that they wouldn't want their top, say their top player is the one that gets injured. Their team's basically screwed for the next whatever, amount of time coming up, because if their top player is gone, what's going to happen with the team? So I'm sure the managers are all for that as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, Chris, because I know there are a couple managers out there who they're actually telling their catchers that they don't want them to block the plate. They're like banning them from blocking home plate when the other player is charging. I know, I hate to keep bringing up the example of the New York Mets, but I know that Terry Collins actually told his, one of the Mets' top prospects was acquired in the trade that sent R.A. Dickey to Toronto. His name's Travis d'Arnaud. He actually told him in spring training, hey, I don't want you, blocking the plate, risking any kind of injury if someone is charging hard at home. So, I mean, like you said, I know the managers, they are aware of that, and they are trying to prevent injuries that can be prevented.
Yeah, but then you look at the other side, and it's like, are we going to make these guys big wusses for, not charging the plate and, just playing the game as, trying to win the game? So you could kind of see both sides. Am I for it too? In a way, I could see in the manager side, but I can also see on the other side, like, it's a game of baseball. You're out there to play hard, and, football has its injuries, the same thing. You're tackling the whole time. So it can go either way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's like football. It's becoming more and more like, in a couple of years, it's looking like football is going to be 2-hand touch or flag or using flags. It's all players' interest and to keep them safe, but at the same time, they know what they're signing up for when they commit to this kind of lifestyle.
Exactly. So sometimes it's like, how much is too much with, taking preventative measures and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's what that story's all about.
Yep, time will tell.
And we have some updates here on spring training news that's going on with some contracts and pay cuts. This is a pretty interesting story that I just saw come up that I believe just came up the other day. The Los Angeles Angels are renewing their contract. They're within talks for Mike Trout, and they came to a deal, and Mike Trout settled for $510,000, which is a very angry response coming from his agent. Was disappointed with the decision. That decision was announced on Saturday. The salary is $20,000 above the major league minimum. So basically, the agent believes that Trout is worth a lot more money. So the agent is pretty pissed off. But it seems like Trout just didn't want to really go through anything else anymore, and he just said, we'll take the deal, and I guess that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, if I were Mike Trout's agent, I'd be pretty pissed off too, because Mike Trout is a good player. He deserves to make more money than that. I mean, I'm sure he'll get a better contract within the next couple of years especially if he continues performing at the level that he performed at last season. But as of right now, I mean, he definitely deserves to be making more than that.
Yeah, so I don't think he really sees how good of a player he is, because he was quoted saying, you could put yourself in a bad mood about it, but he said that's not really what he does. So he's just going to take it like it is, and like he was saying, he likes to play the game of baseball, so he'll just do whatever it takes to play the game. And if they win the World Series, maybe he will get more money out of it in the long run. So there's other things that can be added to it. Obviously, if there's some deals that he could make with sponsors and all that, he should be okay coming into it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm sure if like I said, like, it goes back to the way he played last year. If he continues, hitting the cover off the ball like he did last year, making some spectacular outfield, plays, catches like he did last year as well, he should have no problem getting some commercial spots and sponsors, sponsorships, those types of things.
Absolutely, and it just should give him more incentive to play better in these games and try to prove himself. Like, I'm worth more money than you guys gave me money for. So maybe another team would pick him up. Even if, look at this, Angels, they're going to pay me more money, I'm going to go with them. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
I don't think the Angels would let it get to that point. No. But I mean, that is always a possibility. If anything, I think, like you said, it's going to make him want to play harder and earn that big contract.
Yeah. And we have one more story here about spring training contracts negotiations. Pitcher Aaron Crow, he was for the Kansas City Royals. He took a 20% cut in his raise. He agreed to a $1.28 million one-year contract. And that represents the maximum 20% cut. He was 3-1 with a 3.4 ERA and 72 relief appearances last season, and the year after he made the AL All-Star team as a rookie. So, not too bad of a player. So I guess we'll see what happens with him with that 20% pay cut. Same idea as the Mike Trout story. Crow is just going to have to prove himself as the player that he thinks he is, and probably his agent thinks he is. And, maybe he'll get that increase in the bonus.
All right, and the last story on this episode of Rounding Third, we've got a countdown of the top 10 prospects to look out for in the remainder of this year's spring training and going into the regular season. Number 10, we got Jamison Tylon, right-handed pitcher within the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. So far in his 2013 spring training games, he has pitched 2 innings, given up 1 earned run while walking 1 batter and striking out 3. He's a 6'6", 225-pound right-hander who was drafted in the first round of the 2010 draft out of Woodlands High School in Texas. So look for big things coming from him. Number 9, we've got Xander Bogaerts, a shortstop within the Boston Red Sox organization. He's actually ranked the number 2 shortstop in all of Major League Baseball. The 20-year-old right-hander is batting .500 in spring training with 1 RBI.
And number 8, Jose Fernandez. He is a right-hand pitcher for the Miami Marlins. Number 5 starting pitcher. He's only 20 years old, and he's a righty. And he was drafted and signed in the first round in 2011. For spring training in 2013, there are no stats available on him, but there are basically a bunch of prospects here for the Marlins, and he's basically going to have to prove himself coming up in the upcoming games, the remainder of the season of spring training for the Marlins. Number 7, Zach Wheeler. He is also a right-hand pitcher out of the New York Mets organization, Zachary. I know you're pretty interested in him.
You got it.
Yeah, and he's a number 4 starting pitcher, 22 years old, 6'4", 185 pounds. He is a lefty batter, righty thrower, and he was drafted in the first round of 2009. In his latest appearance on February 23rd versus the Nationals, he pitched 2 innings. He let up 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, and then 1 walk in that appearance. And he was acquired in a trade that sent Carlos Beltran to the Giants.
And what a sad day that was, but hey, glad to get Zach Wheeler in return. And number 6, we've got Garrett Cole, another right-handed pitcher within the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. The 22-year-old right-hander has pitched to a .450 ERA with 1 strikeout and 1 hit so far in spring training this year. And in his last appearance, February 27th versus the Rays, he pitched 2 innings, gave up 1 earned run on 1 hit, 1 strikeout, and 1 walk. Number 5, Taijuan Walker, right-handed pitcher from the Seattle Mariners. He is actually ranked the number 2 starting pitching prospect in the majors. The 6'4", 210-pound righty pitched 2 innings without giving up an earned run and struck out 2 batters in his latest appearance, which was February 23rd at Cleveland.
Number 4 is Will Myers. He is an outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. He is the number 2 outfielder as a prospect for them. He is 22 years old, 6'3", 205 pounds. He's a righty on both the batting and throwing ends. He was drafted and signed in the 3rd round, 2009. And in his 2013 spring training for his stats, he has a .273 batting average, 1 RBI, 1 run, and 1 walk, as well as 3 strikeouts. Basically, where he's standing around, he just basically needs to round out his game for Kansas City. So we'll see what happens with this new prospect. And we also have at number 3 here, Oscar Taveras. He is an outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. Number 1 outfielder as a prospect for them. 20 years old, 6'2", 280 pounds, bats and throws lefty. He was drafted back in November 2008, and in 2013 for spring training, he has a .263 batting average, 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 3 runs, 1 double, and then 2 strikeouts. And we'll go on to number 2, Zach.
Number 2, bringing up the top 2 here, we've got Dylan Bundy. I know I heard this name before, right-handed pitcher with the Baltimore Orioles. He is the number 1 starting pitching prospect in all of the land. The 20-year-old, 6'1", 195-pound right-hander was drafted in the 1st round of the 2011 draft, and he last pitched against the Yankees February 27th, where he pitched 2 shutout innings and only gave up 1 hit.
And that brings us to number 1, which is Jurickson Profar. He is the second baseman as well as shortstop for the Texas Rangers. Number 1 shortstop and number 1 second baseman prospect for them. 20 years old, 6 feet tall, 165 pounds. He is a righty, and he's a switch hitter. He was drafted and signed in July 2009, and in 2013 spring training, he's got a .231 batting average, 3 RBIs, 1 triple, 4 runs, and 4 strikeouts. So I guess, what's going to happen with our number 1 prospect here. It'll be interesting to see what Profar does.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they all do. They all look like so far they've got bright futures ahead of them. If they keep performing well in spring, they'll eventually get that call up. I know I've definitely heard Bundy's name there, the number 2 prospect. I've heard his name before in regards to getting called up. Even the number 9 prospect there, the young shortstop there with the Boston Red Sox, Bogarts. I know I've heard his name before too. So a lot of these guys, they're young, but they're hungry and they're looking to contribute to their respective major league clubs.
Yeah, and he seems, Bogarts seems like one that I'm going to be pretty interested in obviously following throughout the season. Obviously because he's a Red Sox, but, just the way his stats look, I just want to see what's going to happen with him. And he's obviously still so young that, he's got a lot of room to grow. Zach, who are you interested in?
Well, obviously I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Zach Wheeler. I know he was actually scratched from his last spring start with an oblique strain. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on that because that is an injury that takes a little bit of time to come back from.
All right, that's going to do it for us here this week on Rounding Third, brought to you by Podbean.com. As always, you can catch us at roundingthird.podbean.com. Email us at
roundingthirdbase@gmail.com.
And then finally, check our Facebook page, Rounding Third Base. That's basically all the ways you can get in touch with us. If you want to hear anything talked about on the show, hit us up. I'm Chris Wilson. Thanks for joining us.
And this is Zach Delight. Thank you as always.
And here we are, signing off.